What was your biggest mistake when designing signal-based engines?
Not everyone in your market is going to be actively signaling you to reach out to them in obvious ways, right? It's going to have to be abstracted out through thought. And so this other 90% chunk, if you're only used to like the perfect warm lead, you're not actually getting a good depiction of what message is good for turning strangers into customers.
On your LinkedIn, you state that you build predictable motions, right? What is the mental model behind it?
When you're running an outbound motion, the most important thing is going to be the offer. And beyond the offer, it's going to be how you can frame the offer in a way that integrates with someone's worldview.
How do you manage to build trust from someone that never heard about you?
What the company wants is always going to triumph over what the person wants. So concentrating around company issues and company problems is always going to be more conducive to generating sales, not interest.
Welcome everyone to My First Signal, the only show where we invite seasoned revenue drivers to discover the practical side of building your signal-based go-to-market engine under 30 minutes. My name is Georgi, co-founder and CEO of Signal-Based. Let's get practical. Cool. Sick intro. Okay, Mitch, thank you. Thank you very much for coming on the pod, man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you due to multiple reasons. I think you are one of the most underrated people on LinkedIn talking about mental models when it comes to outreach that actually resonates, right? We're talking about standing out, not generating any AI copies, etc., but really getting the psychology behind what messages click out. And number two, you have been a member of our journey with Signal-Based since day one. So super excited to have you on the pod, man. And thank you for everything and all of the support so far.
Yeah, excited as well. Cool to be here. And yeah, let me know what kind of practical things you want to dig into. You've touched on something important already, I think. The main reason I'm very AI avoidant, at least with copy during the initial test phase, is the same reason why I think like AI SDRs are really bad. A new one came out like Monaco or something, I think they're calling it, which is a great name. Hyper concentrated, ultra rich area kind of thing. Great F1 going on there all the time. That's where they all live, right? No taxes. So great branding. But the problem is that with anything like that is marketed towards startups, you're marketing towards companies that haven't found anything that generates them revenue. So a tool that generates revenue on autopilot doesn't make sense. It's going to, when it's successful, have everything that it learned hidden in a black box that you can't access and use to inform the rest of your marketing. So my main push is for people to very systematically and programmatically test copy that is written or reviewed by them, not just sent one-to-one to start, so that you can actually take that, use AI to digest all the information, actually create cards for every interested lead using things like Claude Code, and then use that to inform your next campaigns and start to integrate AI down the road to enhance the message. But you still need to know what the baseline kind of value proposition and offer is before you get to that stage, especially if you're a startup. That's kind of my thesis. So maybe that's a good jumping off point.
Yeah, exactly. My first question was towards what is your biggest hot take when it comes to the go-to-market landscape? Do we want to count this or you have another banger?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, my hate of one-to-one AI campaigns is one of them. And number two is, this one maybe is going to grind some gears, but I think that without good messaging, signals are something to hide behind. You know what I mean? You can get over the line, which is why your platform is great. And you heard me before this chat talk about how I think it's like the perfect platform for someone starting out, because you're going to get the good feeling of people engaging with you and you're going to get clients out of it. But for long-term go-to-market, for the opportunity to actually speak to your entire market, not everyone in your market is going to be actively signaling you to reach out to them in obvious ways, right? It's going to have to be abstracted out through thought. And so this other 90% chunk, if you're only used to like the perfect warm lead, you're not actually getting a good depiction of what message is good for turning strangers into customers, which is what I'm all about. I want to find that message. And so I think you have to be careful with being signal only, because you're not going to get a clear understanding of something that's valuable to everyone else in your market which are also very important. You don't want to just eliminate 90% of your market every quarter during your outreach.
1000%. You already dive deeper and deeper into my next questions, funny enough. So on your LinkedIn, you state that you build predictable motions, right? What is the mental model behind it? How do you see the whole predictability of the engine being or should be approached, right?
Yeah, really great question. I don't know if you want screen share on these things, but
yeah, sure.
we can keep it pretty simple for the most part. Basically, in order to create something predictable, you have to start with very controlled tests. And my thesis is fairly simple. It's that when you're running an outbound motion, the most important thing is going to be the offer. And beyond the offer, it's going to be how you can frame the offer in a way that integrates with someone's worldview. So Hormozi is the absolute best at frameworks, and people, I think, don't think deeply enough about the frameworks he provides. But if you boil down what you're trying to do with a message, you're trying to make someone curious and you're trying to make them trust you. And now a lot of people view this formula as, oh man, social proof, hammer social proof. Oh man, say the biggest, craziest thing. But pause for a second and think about putting yourself in the prospect's shoes, first of all. And you receive an email that says, here's $1 million. No one says yes to that email because trust is at an all-time low. Even if you said, here's $1 million and I did it for 12 other princes across the world, it's still very low trust. No matter what you say about how many people you gave $1 million, it's just not going to work. But if you present that same offer, say, for instance, you are targeting mid-market companies, CFOs, and you found a loophole in a certain grant that was dropped by the Canadian tax program, and you say, look, I was going through your team, I see you have 5 developers based in Canada. Got to imagine, based on average salaries, you're doing X. What we found is name of thing that you can do with the Canadian tax code. Think it can save you $1 million this year based on what I'm seeing. Worth discussing. Nothing to do with social proof, but you've raised the perceived likelihood of achievement. And all that is framing around their worldview and their day-to-day. They day-to-day as a CFO understand what salaries are on their books and the implications of those salaries. If you can outline that attachment to your offer, you've bridged the gap on trust and you've presented a good dream outcome. And now all you have to do is think about how you can reduce effort and sacrifice. And there you might say things like, look, I know you have 2 controllers on your team, so it should be easy to get over the line. Or I know you're based in Ottawa. The process should be a lot faster because it's mail-in, right? Like you can start to play around with the variables. Now,
Gotcha.
That's the baseline. We have to pause there. Then I can take you through the process of testing this theory systematically, if you'd like.
Yeah, if we have, of course, the time for it. Before we even dive in here, something that you previously mentioned to me, and not only to me, actually, on LinkedIn too, is building that whole context window around that account.
Yeah.
How do you build that?
Yeah, so I scrape the entire website, and then I send out agents to create competitor battle cards. And then it's a 21-step process that covers 5 Claude Code skills. So that's actually a lot more crazy to go into, but it is a good jumping off point, to be honest, to what testing the offer is. And actually, it is a quick explanation. But basically, you take that knowledge and what you try to do is compare what is publicly available to what is available in your sales call transcripts. And then you go to the founder and I do something called an offer clarity workshop. I present the findings and I say, look, say I'm working with like an email marketing company for ecom. I say, look, 7 out of 10 of your competitors are doing Klaviyo audits. So that tells me even though this is a great free offer, it's saturated. We need to find a way to redefine the industry. Everyone has intro offers, so our jumping off point should likely be intro offers, right? Your competitive landscape tells you these things, and it can actually help you skip steps in your testing. And then with the founder, I look to bridge the gap between what is found, what is said, and what is understood. Because someone's going to say something, right, on a transcript, but there's a gap between what is said and based on the founder's personal worldview, their experiences, owning their business, all of their past client experiences, what they actually perceive from that. And that's a lot to do with the gap analysis at the same time. From a sales point of view, it's like almost the gap inside your head. But we extract that and then we create our initial tests. And the tests are always baseline around the offer. We move from offer testing once we find a winner. So 5 offers, typically across 3 different segments. We move from offer testing over to more offer testing, depending on the benchmark, or to frame testing. So what is frame testing? Frame testing would be like, can we position against your competitors in our frame? Can we start to attach the outcome to something they're already invested in as a frame? Or can we start to attach the outcome to something that they really have a high likelihood of losing out on based on a regulatory change, for instance, right? We see what works there. Typically, that's actually the stopping point for most of our clients. That frame is where we find something that is situational, that we can scale infinitely horizontally across their market. And that's what we call a stealth offer, is something that you can scale horizontally, not vertically. It's opposed to Jordan Crawford's thesis to a degree, which is everything should be vertical. And by aligning with like data points that tell you what someone's investing in and enhancing their current investments, you make the gamble easier. So that's our goal with offer framing, is how do you make the gamble easier? And that creates perceived likelihood of achievement without social proof, because social proof at the end of the day, case studies, they're a race to the bottom sort of thing. A case study only has so much meaning. A company can only be so similar to yours. Even a competitor company can only be so similar to yours.
Totally.
But yeah, from there we move to lead magnets and intro offers, and that's our full string of tests. And that's why we call it a very predictable process.
Holy cow. I think in the description of the episode, I might need to drop your Loom explaining this or other things like this, or we can continue investigating it further.
Please help me pick it apart. Maybe I'm not being clear.
No, but that's great. Something that you mentioned is with the case studies, right? Like at some point you see it, but do people really read them, or it's just more for the fact that, oh, you have this logo and this logo? So it's more a volume of logos that you have rather than actually what's written in it, because people are lazy, they won't read.
I think a big problem with the case study sharing and why it's a 2-3-year-old strategy is, and for the most part, we really don't use them. We really don't in our testing. We don't view them as all that compelling for the most part. And the reason is because when you're trying to get someone to trust that you're trying to help them, a case study detracts from that trust of trying to help, right? Yeah. A case study feels like something that's more middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, but stranger to customer is a top of funnel activity. Now, if you're doing something signal-based, it changes the story, right? If you're looking at someone that's actively engaging with your website, looking at someone actively engaging with your competitors, or on social media with topics at hand, or on Reddit, so on and so forth, then it's a different story. It's, look, I know you're looking to solve this problem. Here's why I'm the person to do it. It's different. Everything else is, you didn't know you had this problem, but I can help you solve it.
Yeah.
And here's why you should believe me, not why you should buy from me. A case study is a buying type of social proof, whereas you want social proof that is believing you can do it. Is that a better distillation, maybe?
Yeah, totally. I'm just thinking for even our own case, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the familiarity trigger is very important, especially when you try to build trust. So I wanted to ask you, how do you manage to build trust from someone that never heard about you? And just to give a tip from my side, at least, what we do, and we do still until this day with signal-based. I don't know if you have seen, but we just became Smart Lead partners, for instance. So the fact that you associate me with Smart Lead already gives me higher credibility.
Definitely.
Than just launching an MCP somewhere, right? Like in Claude Code. Because one of the things is you push features, but does that feature really help you to elevate into the eyes of others? In my eyes, it's way better to go to different conferences. And this is a growth hack or whatever you want to call it, like a tip from last year. So we went to almost every big SaaS event in Europe, and we've shot different rapid fire interviews for 5 minutes with Nathan Latka, with April Dunford, with Kyle Poyer, and all these names.
Yeah.
When people saw me having this, and I can always use that as benchmark of quality, hey, like those guys spoke to me, you should talk also to me, right? Like I feel like that's how you engineer trust. to the degree where, okay, it's unavoidable. So it's the same thing with the use case. But what's your take on that? Like, how do you manage to install trust then?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand what happens when someone receives an email, right? Or any cold outreach for that matter. What's going to happen is they're going to click your LinkedIn profile, or they're going to search you up on Google, or they're going to try to put your website in. And so all of those things are going to happen naturally as a part of the process of checking you out. But for them to consider checking you out, you have to be interesting and trustworthy in the email. That's it. So familiarity should be built into the rest of your funnel, to be honest. And you should do your best to rank when people search you. So if someone searches Georgie, right? Or if someone searches Mitchel Keller, I'm cooked because there's actually an MLB baseball pro with my exact name that's playing right now. So he always shows up first and I'm never going to beat him. But I'm at least in the top 4, right? So people find me, I look trustworthy, they see followers, they see my YouTube, right? Like credibility by association is massive, but it'll only take you so far. So if you want to cook enterprise deals, your smart lead partnership isn't going to be the most important thing. It's just going to be a piece of the puzzle unless they're already a smart lead user, right? Which isn't necessarily going to be the totality of the enterprise market. Whereas if you're going after more like agency users, smart lead is a piece of the puzzle, but what would be more powerful is being able to say deadpan in your email that, like for Email Bison, for instance, like that Taylor Heron study, that is the easiest cold email campaign of all time. Everyone in the agency owner basically knows Taylor Heron, and he did a third-party benchmark of all the sequencers. That's the easiest email you could possibly send. Look, this guy sends millions of emails with our platform per month. It's the best sample size you could possibly have. And here's the comparative analysis. People view that and they go, wow, I can just deliver better with Bison. And that's a huge advantage, right? Totally. So there's 100 different ways to go about it. Familiarity should be built into your understanding of them, in my opinion. The words you use and the problems you reference and even what they invest in. So if they're investing into blogs and blogs are an enhancer to the value of your product, you should mention that they're investing into blogs in your email. That's offer framing.
Yeah, 100%. Because we're running out of time. I know that you have only 5 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, good. Really quickly, so we'll go like rapid fire. Normally, this should be the entire episode, but fuck it. Okay, first thing first, what was your biggest mistake when designing signal-based engines?
Biggest mistake was relying on person-level data over company-level data.
Why? Like, really quickly, can you elaborate?
What the company wants is always going to triumph over what the person wants. So concentrating around company issues and company problems is always going to be more conducive to generating sales, not interest.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need another episode. I won't lie. Okay.
What is it, man? Sure.
What is your opinion for Claude Code? Because everyone is talking about it at the moment. Obviously, it's the next shiny thing, right? So I do want to cover it, although it just exploded this week as we're recording. So yeah, just curious how you see it.
Yeah, so I think people are in some ways over-indexing into Claude Code and in some ways not indexing enough. I think people are over-indexing into automation and under-indexing into understanding of data. So people are like, wow, I can run a script from Claude Code and have it handle a pipeline. It's only so good as far as you can throw it. What's really more powerful is its ability to analyze and consolidate data. And I think that's extremely exciting. The ability to go through every single interested lead in depth, scrape their entire website, scrape news about them, and look for patterns across engaged leads that you otherwise wouldn't find is the most powerful use case because it informs what's next. Informing what's next is way more important than the initial build out. Maybe you're saving an hour if you get the perfect Claude Code flow, but realistically, Clay is more malleable for most people, and it also has more durable execution. So if you screw up, it's a lot easier to go back and see the screw up. Whereas, again, black boxes, Claude Code is a bit of a black box. So really great for routine work, right? Like scraping something and then putting it through a workflow. Not great for bulk work that you have to manipulate over and over again, which is what you need to do at the beginning of your go-to-market. Like you can't just go back to your Claude Code table and say, oh, actually, I really need this variable to try as the next tests for this segment of the market.
Yeah, cool. No, I think that's key differentiation because everyone jumps on the hype train, but how do you actually use the train in order to go from point A to point B, right? Okay, and one last question just to wrap it up, sadly. What is an underrated advice that you have for the go-to-market teams out there?
Don't be afraid of intro offers. But when you create your intro offer, create it off of things you've seen. I call them oh wow moments. So those moments during onboarding, during sales, during your initial pitch, where people go, oh wow, oh yeah, I could see how that would work. And then try those, but do not freaking build them yet. Try them in the message, do not build them. So execute manually, don't pour dev hours and vibe code hours into building something and automating something that you don't know will work. And then secondly, no one has the secret sauce. The only moat you can create right now is how fast and programmatically you can test your messaging. Because tools like Signal-based are making the brilliant technical work commoditized and very easy. So your final moat is understanding of market and how rapidly you can test.
100%. No, this is something that we also say to everyone that uses this, right? The evergreen signals that we provide are just the starting point, not the means to the end. So make sure to layer your custom qualification criteria or signal in order to really know, okay, those accounts really need us at
and really filter out competitors, because you're going to notice like a lot of your competitors are the ones signaling things that you like. That's a big miss a lot of people do with like Bombara. People are like, oh my God, they searched about our thing. And you find out actually 90% of the people searching about your thing are your competitors trying to make their service better or something like that, right?
It is what it is. We live in a very attention-driven world. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to hear more from Mitchel, and I personally would love to, because every time I talk to you, man, I've been learning so much. Please make sure to also check all of the links in the description, because I'm sure that Mitchel is going to drop some gems in there. And yeah, if you ever need hand with building your own engine, I can hand with my two hands recommend Mitchel, because he really knows what he's talking about, as you guys have probably seen today. And without any further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one.